Welcome to SafeDefend Live. I am Dave Evans, not Phil Nichols, and I'm here with Jeffrey Green, the founder and face and body of SafeDefend. It's great to be here with you today, Jeff.
Thanks. Yeah, and I am Jeff Green here again today. So, yeah, no, great to be here, and um, it's crazy times that we're in, and Safe Defend is just still just driving away and helping schools stay safe.
So today we want to talk about the one thing that schools are missing. There was a report written in 2015 called Making Prevention a Reality by the BAU. If you're a fan of Criminal Minds, you know who the BAU is, right?
Right.
That they actually exist. I'm going to start with a couple of things they said, and then we're going to talk about their recommendation and how you've seen it work in schools as a principal and as the founder of Safe Defend. So in 2015, the BAU brought together academic researchers, mental health experts, and law enforcement practitioners of threat assessment to discuss active shooters. Specifically, these folks focused on prevention strategies with regard to the crime problem. This is the key. They said by far the most valuable prevention strategy identified was a threat assessment and management team. In your experience, how many schools have an active plan and have a identified and trained threat management and response team?
Yeah, so that's going to be all over the board. You do have some schools that definitely are, leaders in that regard and at the forefront that have this established. I would venture that most schools have some sort of plan. Now, whether they've
Okay.
reviewed that plan in the last 5 years or updated it or kept that in front of them, I would venture that a lot of them have not. Uh, you know, in schools, unfortunately, we're very good um, at responding to kids' needs,
Yep.
um, but and everything else that focuses or comes in around us, we're very reactive, not proactive. So until it moves the needle for us, until it has an impact, we tend not to put as much effort into those areas of focus as we should. And that's because most of our energy is going to trying to meet kids' needs and making sure we get our kids where they need to be and send them off the way that puts them in a position for success. But that also creates a vulnerability. It also creates um, the situations where when you do have to react, it's too late and it sometimes it's catastrophic. So, um, getting on the forefront of this for schools, which I will tell you, I would be very surprised if more than 5 or 10% in the country are in a position of having an effective threat assessment team in their school.
And you bring up a good point. Our teachers work so hard, and we ask a ton of them. And when we say
Absolutely.
threat assessment team, I'm sure it overwhelms some administrators. Like that's something else I've got to do. I mean,
Right.
I'm barely getting the kids in and out of school without going crazy. And we see it in all the schools. The threat assessment team is just a group you already have. They're already doing the work. It's a matter
Right.
of giving them training work. So we're talking about your SRO or your local law enforcement, right? We're talking about your school counselors. We're talking about teachers in the school. And when we say threat assessment team, it's specific training for them so they can see problems early and they know how to ask the right question to see if this is going to be a real problem or not. Because we say that people snap. They don't snap. They decide. Right. A child is in a bad place. Things are going bad. You see it. The bullying happen going on, and then all of a sudden they go, "I have had enough. I can't take it anymore." So I'm going to do something to stop people from picking on me. In a lot of cases, that's what it is. That's not all cases, but that is really the foundational basis of when we talk about threat assessment management, threat assessment team is being aware of what's going on in your school. Is that correct?
So in that regard, yeah, schools actually most are required to have some sort of student intervention team, behavior intervention team, whatever the terminology that school or district chooses. Where that is typically the counselor. It is typically not the SRO though. It is bringing an SRO into that type of situation. One, it's outside their purview of what really they are supposed to be able to help. Unless it's something criminal, we really want that SRO to be more of a liaison
Mm-hmm.
and supportive in that regard. So it gets a really delicate balance to being able to bring an SRO into that type of environment, on what they currently have in place, what schools typically currently have in place, and a lot of that is behaviorally focused.
Mm-hmm.
The difference is, um, identifying those predictors, and you know navigating the future impact of these behaviors is the challenge, right? Like, and from a school setting, what I mean by that is, from a school setting, we can't involve law enforcement unless there's been an actual crime committed. Um, and even if we have some red flags, we have to be very careful about, if we bring in outside resources, then the school district's responsible. If we, um, you know, managing the monitoring of that is something schools do pretty well, but their hands are pretty tied until something happens that puts, that allows for additional resources to come in. I don't know if that's making sense or not.
It does, and the key here of the team is everybody has their role on that threat assessment team, right?
Right.
And your SROs, as part of this, they are reactive typically to an incident that requires them to engage, right? I mean, that's what they're there for, but they're also there as a liaison to build that relationship with their students as well. I think what the BAU is meaning by this is that when things are going a certain direction, when you see challenges, that's the time to go to, there is a time to have that conversation with your SRO going, this is what we're seeing. What are your thoughts? Are you seeing similar things? Because you're in the halls every day.
Right.
What are our next steps from a police standpoint? And as a team, having that conversation as a threat assessment team, because you're looking at the whole school the whole time. All those folks are working together for a solution, and they all have very specific roles. So I think I understand what you're saying there, and it makes sense.
Yeah, it's a constant challenge, right?
Yep.
If there was an easy formula, or if there was an easy path, we'd all be doing it and be doing it successfully. So this really is in some ways, $1 million question, because law enforcement, even as an SRO, can't get involved until it reaches a certain level.
Right.
Schools can't bring in outside entities without parent permission or parents support in some cases, in many cases. And that creates a challenge. We jokingly say in first grade, we know who's going to be prom queen. We know who's probably going to be valedictorian. We know who's probably going to have a really hard time struggling in going for the rest of the time in high school, whatever the case may be. It's you really see, you really have a good insight into a child even very early on, and what a probable path is. I'll never say what the path will be, because so many factors can help on a benefit side. Sometimes it helps on a negative side, and steers a child in a worse direction. So, but it is quite interesting though. The behaviors and the challenges and the red flags, if you want to call them, they don't just start exhibiting shortly before a crisis.
Absolutely.
So
I agree, and I think that's where the BAU is going when they put this together. A bunch of really smart people. They understand that. They understand that there's behavioral challenges, and if you catch them early enough and you give the right care and attention to them,
sure,
many times you can prevent anything bad from happening in the first place, because that person knows there's somebody there for them, or they can get them the help they need, put them in the right direction. Now, I won't even get into the parents getting in the middle of it going, you're not doing this to my kid, because we all know that parents get involved in schools and tell teachers no a lot, and they're restricted. So, but I do find that when we talk about prepare, notify, and protect, the core values of SafeDefend, we have a responsibility to help our schools find the right answers, and that's what SafeDefend's doing. We're Absolutely. Working with teachers, giving them material, administrators giving them material, giving them tools so they can prepare. And if they have to notify and protect, they can. But we're more concerned and focused on prevention as opposed to reaction, although we have all those tools in place. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I think that's 100% fair statement. And I'll tell you, schools probably, and we don't have the data to show this, but there probably has been some very successful interventions that have prevented some tragedies down the road because of schools have been able to, and we just don't know that for a fact, but we were able to help. The problem is it's just such an intense and challenging problem that schools can't do it all.
That's a fact.
So, and that's really where we're here to help. That's really, where we can bring in resources and or support. And the unfortunate reality is, we also have to be prepared to respond if we weren't able to help somebody and God forbid something happens. So, that's really the catalyst and the foundation of SafeDefend. And that's what we do better than anybody else.
Yeah, and it goes to this. This is a low probability, high impact event we're talking about, right?
Absolutely.
An active shooter situation or a targeted violent event thing. And the key to being successful in that is to have the three pieces that SafeDefend offers. Prepared, you're confident of what to do and how to do it, and you're watching every day. If something does happen, you have a way to lock things down but notify, which the system has. And then if it really comes to it, you got to defend your classroom or take care of a wounded student or teacher or staff member, you have the protect and survive piece.
Right.
All as part of the system. And now let me ask you this, because I'm pretty sure I'll answer, but there is no other school safety system in the world that has those three components. Is that correct?
That is absolutely correct. There's a lot of notification systems out there, and really low degree of impact. Nobody addresses those three core areas except for SafeDefend.
That is amazing. That is amazing.
Absolutely.
Go
ahead.
We love the system and what it does. It's super exciting, and I think it falls in line with recommendations being made by some really, really smart people in this space on the threat assessment and how we get there. We're going to make this available to folks. We'll send this out in our next newsletter as a copy, a link to you can download the threat assessment if you can't find it online. But it's a great read. It's 115 pages, so it's not hard to read, and it gives administrators and communities a path to follow to build that threat assessment team and do the right thing. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Well, and if we can help with, if just one intervention makes a difference, that's a win, right?
Absolutely.
If the school is able to influence someone heading another direction, and that could be suicide too. That doesn't have to be necessarily a direct threat to the school, but all of these have a combining factor, a tying together of needs that may or may not have been addressed at some point throughout time. So, yeah, absolutely. It's every time we are able to intervene, and we may not know what the other outcome might have been. It's still a win, but obviously we have a long way to go.
We do. And the key for us is to keep taking small steps and make a difference in every community that allows us to be a part of their community.
Absolutely, yeah. And the communities that put SafeDefend in, we hear it over and over again how grateful that they are. They have it, especially when one of these tragedies comes up. We've got superintendents that are saying, "Hey, I sent out a letter, but I was getting emails and calls from parents and staff. Grateful for SafeDefend and the training that we provide and the system that's in place." So, unfortunately, we have to address it from all areas, all angles. Yes. We need that behavioral support. We need to do as much as we can on the intervention side, but we also have to be prepared to react and respond.
Well, Jeff, thank you for letting me be a part of the SafeDefend Live Day. It's been a pleasure. Great job. Excited about the future. If you're out there and you're listening to this or you see this afterwards later today, schedule a call, find out what we're all about. You can go to our website, click the button, and we're there. We appreciate everything you teachers and administrators do for our kids.
Absolutely.
Thank you. And with that, Jeff and Dave, we are out of here.
Have a great weekend.